Hello and welcome to the Green 19 podcast. I'm Dominique Yates. I'm joined by Ryan Wood and Tom Silverstein. Guys, I don't know if the intro music should have been what Mama Said Knock You Out or Eye of the Tiger or Nuck If You Buck. I don't know, but I feel like it was a little chippy out there today.
Yeah,
so.
we fighting today, or we want to all play nice? Like, we got to establish the ground rules right now because there was a little mixture on the Packers-Seahawks practice.
It was chippy. So, which brings me to an important question, and this is for both of you guys. If you see a scuffle and a fight in front of you, what are you doing? Ryan Wood.
Oh, well, I think we all know I'm the hothead of the trio here. So, I mean, I will never throw the first punch. But, like, and really, you can – I got this mantra. You can attack me, but, like, if it's one of my guys, you know, and one of my friends, like, I can get a little defensive. And – that's kind of what happened today, a little bit out there.
Spoon, where will you be at?
It depends. If my friend's acting like an idiot, I'm not going to let him get his butt kicked. If there's something to really protect him or whatever, then I might jump in there a little bit. But mostly I'm
that was so.
Yeah, right. See, I can't even talk a big game. My little short behind. I'm watching.
You're passive.
I am literally watching them, making sure everyone's okay. After the fight, I'm like, okay, guys, let's go, guys. That's enough.
Why can't we be friends? That's all the singing you'll get today.
That's it. Please, thank you.
That's dumb.
But let's jump into everything else because there actually was a practice that happened.
Well, here's how a training camp fight begins in a joint practice, okay? Zach Tom took offense to a Seahawks player. Do we know the Seahawks player, Dominique Spoon? Do we know who it was? A Seahawks player who tried to get into their huddle. And the next thing you know, Zach Tom, who it would not have been my pick
he's
on this Packers offensive line,
the chill guy,
to start swinging. Elton Jenkins also was swinging, and he got booted for practice as well. That doesn't surprise me, Elton Jenkins. 2 years ago in Cincinnati, you remember Spoon? He got thrown out because of a fight. Elton Jenkins be my pick. Zach Tom, sweet little innocent Zach Tom.
I don't know about that. I don't know about Zach Tom.
He's so quiet. He's so quiet in the locker room.
In the locker room, but on the field, he's got an edge.
I was surprised.
I've seen him.
He starts swinging at the linebacker, 13, off the top of my head. I don't have the roster in front of me. He starts swinging at linebacker. And then all hell breaks loose, and it was entertaining. I mean, there were definitely punches being thrown.
Yeah, well, I think the thing that stood out, it wasn't just one scuffle and they were done. But then the next couple of minutes, there was another. Even at the end of practice, they're walking off the field, they were jawing, and so it was very, very chippy spirited. But I guess that's how they close out training camp with some punches thrown and some. Just a lot of male testosterone, I guess you could say that was out there.
I have one last critique. Anthony Belton and whoever Seahawks 93 is, again, I should have had the roster in front of me. They threw some punches. Mm-hmm. For two massive people, they weren't the hardest punches, I got to say. They were kind of, there were those punches where you're like, okay, I guess I'm here, I'll swing, but I really don't want to hit anything. Oh, please, I don't mean it. I don't, you know, kind of those type of punches. Zach Tom was throwing haymakers. Those are very different.
He was also have to give a shout out for shouting out people in the scuffle. Tucker Kraft, he ran a guy over, threw him on the ground. So that was
don't mess with him.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I would not be in the scuffle during the fight, but I would be looking for a guy like Tucker Kraft. I'm like, hey, you got this? Yeah, you got this. I'll watch and see what you do. That is me if there is a fight. So props to them. But hey, let's jump into observations from the joint practice. Ryan, you were observing more of the offense. Spoon, you looked at more of the defense. So from the offense, again, I feel like we sound like a broken record for the last week or so. It's like a lot of the receivers are out. Jordan Love isn't in full participation mode. They kind of tweaked some things with 7-on-7 to give Jordan an opportunity to throw out there. But from what you said, really the story of the day from the offense was the play of the tight ends and really how they made some really nice catches.
Yeah, so first of all, a role reversal from last week, and I'm very, very curious to hear from Spoon later on how the defense looked because I didn't see any defense today. I covered Packers defense because Colts last week. But this was, look, we know the receiver situation right now. Yeah. Like Romeo Doubs, Matthew Golden, the only two guys they got. Jane Reed, Dontavian Wicks, obviously Christian Watson, they're not available right now. We don't know on Reed and Wicks for week one. We Reed's freshly out of a boot, so we don't know. But the Packers on paper, are set up to be able to absorb some of those injuries because they have a lot of talent and a lot of depth at tight end. Now, I say on paper because we haven't really seen that much on the field, right? Luke Musgrave in his first 2 seasons has had a lot of injuries while Tucker Kraft's really taken off and looks like a real bona fide, legit potential star. Against the Seahawks, this is the first time that I've certainly never as clearly before seen what can happen when you get both those guys rolling together. And it was not a perfect practice. For example, Jordan Love had 12 7-on-7 reps in the red zone. He was 3 for 12 on those. The Seahawks secondary had their periods. The only 2 touchdowns that Jordan Love threw in the 7-on-7 were to Tucker Kraft and to Luke Musgrave. Tucker Kraft, first team period, he had 4 catches for about 60 yards. He got going first. But then Luke Musgrave started making some plays down the field that you don't see a lot of tight ends make, some catches that are rare for the position. One on a really tight window on the right sideline for about 30 yards, a perfect pass from Malik Willis. Yeah. He had an extension with Malik Willis that was about 25 yards. He really, when he gets going, he can. And Matt LaFleur said this forever. He can stretch the field with rare speed that you don't often see at that position. It's a good compliment. I asked Evan Williams, you've been going against this offense all camp. What is it like going against 2 tight ends like this? And he's like, the variety is what really presents problems for the defense. Tucker Kraft can block. He's classic inline. Luke Musgrave doesn't look like he's going to be the fastest guy, but he's got a second gear down the field that he can just stretch defenses. They did that today, and both had multiple splash plays. That's good when you're talking about an offense that you don't know the receiver situation. I mean, it would not be a surprise at all if they have to rely on both of those guys heavily in September.
Yeah. Now, when we look at the Packers on defense, it's definitely a little bit different, I would already say, from last week compared to when they looked at the Colts offense, because the Colts, quarterback situation, who knows? But when you look at Seattle with some very solid wide receivers. So what did you see from the Packers defense as they were lining up against, Sam Darnold and a lot of those guys?
Well, they have one star receiver and then a former star receiver and then some other guys. And Jackson Smith-Njigba was just unstoppable. The Packers couldn't do anything with him. He was making one-handed catches along the sideline. He was he was catching balls with his fingertips. He was getting open in the red zone. They didn't really have an answer for him until the 2-minute when Carrington Valentine broke up a slant. So they got to see a big-time receiver, one who they faced last year, but he didn't have really a healthy quarterback or I think the quarterback got knocked out of the game, and then it was pretty much over. So from that standpoint, they did okay. And then there were a couple of big gashes from Zach Charbonnet. Just gaping holes that he ran through, which is also something he did last year in the game. He had a big, long touchdown run. The pass rush was decent. Sam Darnold, unlike with the Vikings, they've got him not holding on to the ball. He's getting rid of it pretty quickly. With the Vikings, he held on to it till the very last second, and the Packers couldn't get pressure on him, and he tore him apart. Here, it looks like they want him to get the ball out quicker. So there wasn't anything that just blew you away about the performance. I thought it was Seattle's offensive line's pretty solid. And, there were some sacks and things like that. But nothing just extraordinary stuck out except for JSN just making these unbelievable catches.
Yeah. As a follow-up to the defense, because you actually, did a story about looking at the safeties for the Packers, is like who is going to be, you could say, the Robin to Xavier McKinney as Batman in that situation. And then you saw at the end of practice during that 2-minute, Evan Williams stepped up and had a big interception on the play. So, what do you kind of make of the safety room? You can say outside of, what you get from McKinney, but, as that is, you say, still trying to continually grow.
Well, Evan Williams finally getting an interception was big for his confidence. I don't think it was the most difficult interception in the world. They're facing 2nd and 20, and basically Darnold's just chucking it up to JSN, and they had a nice bracket coverage, and he jumps in front of it. He made a nice job of cutting in front and getting the ball before it got to JSN. The safety position, to me, the most interesting part is that Evan Williams and Javon Bullard were the two safeties all through basically first team.
Yeah.
So it had been Katan Oladapo had been getting some reps there with Bullard in the slot, and now Bullard's getting reps at safety with Kalen King in the slot. It may just be they want to get Javon Bullard's safety snaps because he's been in the slot almost the entire training camp, and they know he's going to have to play some safety, and maybe they want to challenge Evan Williams a little bit and have Bullard on the field. So whatever the case, Bullard was not playing the slot at all. It was all Kalen King, and then Corey Ballantyne got some, and I think Kamal Hadden might have gotten a few. So I think that's still up in the air. Who's going to get the most reps between Bullard and Williams? And I think a lot of it will have to do with matchups. And sometimes I think Kalen King will be on the field because I think they've gotten some confidence in him playing the slot. So there's a lot of moving parts there.
See, that's very interesting because I did talk with Sam Darnold after the practice today, and he had a lot of praise for the slot corner and said that he really did a good job not tipping anything away, and he was tough to read. And I'm thinking that was Javon Bullard. I did not know that Javon Bullard was deep safety. So apparently, I don't know what you saw, Spoon, but Kalen King must have had a solid practice.
Yeah, well, they're using Kalen King a little bit like they use Bullard. So they bring him up at the line, and you don't know whether he's going to blitz. He blitzed a couple times. He did that in the Colts game.
Yeah.
Came off the corner. And I think they're liking the idea of having a real cover corner on certain downs in the nickel. Now, Bullard's going to be a better tackler and a tougher guy, but King throws his body around, so he's kind of an X factor. I can't imagine him not making the team, and I think he's fighting for some playing time. He had some plays. He had a play where he was all over Cooper Kupp and flags went everywhere. He had one where he fell down a little bit. So his coverage is still a work in progress. I think he gave up a kind of a long ball, although he had good coverage against the Colts. But he's definitely a guy on the rise.
Yeah. Ryan, offensively, this might sound like a loaded question, but as far as the quarterbacks, say not named Jordan Love, we've watched Malik Willis, we watched Taylor Elgersma, we watched Sean Clifford, and they obviously, because of Jordan's injury, those guys have been getting a lot more reps. I guess, what have you seen from what they're doing, would you say, with the offense, especially because it could be interesting when you look at that QB3 spot between Clifford and Elgersma. What did you kind of observe out there?
Well, I think Sean Clifford's really the clear number 3 option there. I mean, he got the backup offense and field goal position in the 2-minute drill today. He had obviously the game-winning touchdown Saturday, running it in against the Colts. I mean, he's made plays. The big question has been Malik Willis because he's gotten some good run in the first 2 preseason games, and the offense hasn't really found the end zone. Yeah. I thought he had a good practice today. I asked Luke Musgrave about the deep reception that he had on the corner and go on the sideline, and he was really indifferent on his end, which was surprising because it was a tremendous catch on the sideline. He's just Malik Willis put a perfect ball out there, and he did. I mean, it was a tremendous ball downfield. Malik Willis fired some tight window throws in there today and looked pretty good. He's going to play a lot in the preseason finale against the Seahawks, and I think for to really put a bow on his camp moving the offense, getting the offense in the end zone is going to be paramount. Like if he's able to do that, that's a really good way for him to go into the regular season.
Correct me if I'm wrong. At least going into it, LaFleur said the plan was to play some starters the first preseason game, not the second, and then again for the third one.
That's right. Yeah, and it'll be Malik Willis that goes out there at quarterback with the starters Saturday against the Seahawks because obviously Jordan Love is limited to 7-on-7 right now, and they expect him to be fine for week 1, but they're just not going to take any risks with that left hand that is a week removed from surgery.
I do wonder how much, and which starters will play in this. And I do wonder if the fight and some of the scuffle that happened on this Thursday, if it has anything to do with Saturday at all. And it'll be interesting to see how they'll navigate that, especially, too, because of the number of injuries that they're dealing with.
Well, you know what happened 2 years ago? When Elton Jenkins got booted from the Bengals joint practice, he ended up having to play like an extra series.
Yeah.
And so, if anything, Elton Jenkins and Zach Tom might be playing more as a bit of a punishment.
That would be really stupid.
I know. It was then.
They don't need Elton Jenkins to play at all because he's not playing with Jordan Love, so they might as well not risk that.
Yeah.
But, we'll get more of a look. I'm interested to see how they handle Rasheed Walker and Jordan Morgan. So if Morgan starts at left guard for Aaron Banks, does he come back and play some left tackle? Because I really think that's a competition, and he deserves, another shot at playing left tackle because he's been pretty good.
Yeah.
So we'll see how they handle that.
Josh Jacobs said that today. He was asked about the offensive line, and Josh Jacobs said Jordan Morgan's playing really well right now. So, I mean, his teammates have noticed.
He's a really good pass blocker. Better than last week he went against, not a premier, but a really up-and-coming pass rusher, and he pretty much stymied him. Mm-hmm. And it would be interesting. I don't know if the Seahawks are playing any of their starters, but they have one of the best defensive lines in football. And so to see him one way or the other, if he has to play in the middle, that wouldn't be bad too if they're playing Leonard Williams and he gets a chance to go up against him. I don't know. I don't know what the Seahawks are going to do, but they got a lot to think about with Jordan Morgan.
Yeah. As far as, I guess we can stick with the O-line as well. As far as, I don't know how much you're able to observe in the midst of practice and in the game, everything's flying around and you're charting as you go. What have you seen even from, you could say, some of that depth and from the Anthony Beltons of the world and some of these guys that are, even though young, they're still trying to build some depth at the O-line because Luke Butkus said, as far as the depth, he doesn't like where it is just yet, but then you watch Belton have some moments here and there. Just so many of these guys, what have you kind of seen from the O-line?
Well, Anthony Belton came in at right tackle with the starters when Zach Tom got booted. So that was interesting. That gives you an idea of where Anthony Belton is right now. They gave up a couple sacks today, but really not much in terms of the pass rush. I think when the Seahawks defense had their bright spots today, it was really the secondary that shined. I think the depth of this offensive line, when you start looking ahead to the 53, is going to be very interesting. Like, how much depth do they really feel like they have there? Usually, the Packers, Brian Gutekunst wants to keep upwards to 10 offensive linemen. Are there really 10 offensive linemen that are deserving of making this 53? I'm not sure. Where that line is drawn and how that affects other positions, I think will be very interesting.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that at all?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some moves that are maybe they see a prospect somewhere else that they like better than some of the guys they have. I don't know what's going to happen with Jacob Monk. He really has not had a great camp. And do they just rely on the fact that they drafted him, they know him, they think he'll get better? Or do they go out and look for somebody else? Telford is a solid big man. He wouldn't make the team if Travis Glover were around. He's out for the year, but maybe they need another big tackle like that to keep around. So I don't know. They could definitely get away with keeping 9. Mm-hmm. And that way they can keep an extra tight end or extra running back. Maybe they can keep Marshawn Lloyd available if he's going to come back relatively soon.
Yeah. One thing that I'm curious about, too, especially with this final preseason game, and then, come Tuesday, you got to get the roster down to 53. So a lot of these guys will be getting one more audition. You could say the roster starts to, trickle down. There's a couple of matchups you could watch, whether it might be Mecole Hardman or Malik Heath, Christian Welch or Isaiah Simmons. There's so many different matchups that, who knows, it could be a photo finish. Is there anyone in particular that, and this will be for both of you guys, and you can start off, Ryan, is there one that you're curious about you'll be having an eye out on this weekend?
I think that you highlighted two premium ones there with the receiver and the linebacker depth. When I went through this week and did the annual roster locks, good bets level, I had 44 players that were a lock or good bet, which leaves 9 bubble spots, which going into the final week, it's a pretty good number. I think that there are a lot of jobs that are still up for grabs, and I think a lot of it does come down to the roster machinations, how Brian Gutekunst wants to keep certain numbers at positions, because a lot of those guys are pretty close. But it's not just Isaiah Simmons versus Christian Welch. It's not just Mecole Hardman versus Malik Heath. I mean, a lot of ways it's Malik Heath versus Christian Welch. How do they cross compete position by position, and what do they want to keep on their 53?
Yeah. Is there anything in your regard you're watching?
There aren't a lot of huge battles. I kind of want to see how the corner room sort of sorts itself out. I think Bo Melton's kind of forced the hand and probably will stick, but Kellen King has changed things. I think Kamal Hadden has had a really good finish to his camp. Yeah. He was out for a while. He's a big physical corner, someone they don't really have other than Hobbs. We don't know what Hobbs's situation is. I know everybody said they said they hope he'll be ready for the opener, but he hasn't practiced. Haven't seen him. He's not part of the group out running. I haven't seen him doing that. Mm-hmm. So makes you wonder what's the situation there. So if Valentine is the starter, then that kind of makes the other backups really important. So we'll see how that kind of shakes out. Other than that, I don't. Simmons, McDuffie, Walker, Cooper are the starters. Teron Hopper is going to be in the mix too. He's going to be first one off the bench, and may even play in some situations for McDuffie, I would think. But then, do they need a fifth linebacker who really plays? I mean, Christian Welch is a special teams guy, and I guess Isaiah Simmons is now too. But I don't know. Isaiah Simmons getting on the field for defense, I think, is kind of a long shot.
Yeah, that's something that I'm fascinated in how it'll take shape, and even like how many D linemen are they going to keep, and it's just there's a few of those positions that, like I said, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out over the next several days or so. As far as offensively, like, is it really hard? How hard is it to even figure out what they are in terms of your opinion because of all the injuries? Or is there anybody when they come back into the mix that you might be keeping an eye out on? I just feel like it's really hard to really gauge this offense, even though it's a lot of the same guys from the past couple of seasons. But even Jordan kind of alluded to with the experience that he's not as concerned when you throw receivers into the mix. But I don't know. I guess what have been your just thoughts?
I think Dontavian Wicks is a bit of a wild card. He needed to have a good camp after last year, and he started okay, and then he's been out for a while with the injury. So that's the one guy. I don't think there's much concern for Jaden Reed. He's been pretty consistent when he's been out there, but Dontavian Wicks to me is a wild card. I think we know what they want to be offensively. I think they know what they want to be offensively. They want to be a multiple set, power run, egalitarian in the passing game. Where Jordan Love is really aided and assisted by the run game and is able to spread the ball all over the field. But they don't have the receivers right now. So are they entering week one with a full deck or not is really the big question offensively. And then if they're not, they're going to have to adjust from there. Matthew Golden is a guy that might not just need to have a big rookie year, but might need to have a really good September. They might have to rely heavily on the rookie right out of the gate. And Spoon's made the point, I think it's a good one, that, that might all be well and good, but what happens with a rookie who is not used to playing that long in terms of the rookie wall? I mean, ideally, you don't have him be your number one receiver week 1, 2, 3. You want to ease him in. They might not have that luxury.
Yeah. I've said this many a times over the offseason when people are asking about Matthew Golden, like, could he be wide receiver number 1? And honestly, I've said, I would hope not. Because you know what you get with Jaden Reed. You know what you get from Romeo Dobbs. You know what you get even from Wicks, even if it could be up and down. But putting a lot on a rookie wide receiver who's never played in the NFL. And yes, he's not like Jamar Chase tall or the other rookie wide receivers over the years that have been really good. But I don't know. I don't know if it's the route the coaches would want to go by just putting all your chips into the bag so early on a rookie wide receiver, especially because he just hasn't played yet. Is that like way out of left field, or what do you think?
No, I think their offense will be as good as their wide receivers are. I think that's going to determine how far they go. They have offensive lines taken care of. Running back is in good shape. Quarterback's fine. But the wide receivers are still a big question mark. And who in that group scares you? Like who if you're the Detroit Lions, are you saying, we got to stop this guy? I don't know. I mean...
Tucker Kraft.
Yeah, Tucker Kraft probably. But of the receiver group, they don't have a Amon-Ra St. Brown. They have Jaden Reed's the closest to that. But I don't think there's anybody that totally scares you. So they need either Romeo Dobbs to play at a much higher level than he did last year, Reed to kind of blossom, or somebody else. And right now, I don't know. I think that's a question mark in the early part of the season. And when Christian Watson gets back, that's always a guy you have to worry about for a defense. But we all know that his play is up and down, and sometimes he's the guy and sometimes he isn't. So I think there's a lot to be determined by how the receivers play.
The thing that strikes me about Matthew Golden when I start to think that he might be really pretty good is just how effortless he makes certain things. In one-on-one today, he caught both of his reps, and the first one, it was a go ball down the right sideline, and there wasn't much separation, maybe a half step. I mean, the guy was on his hip, and it was just the most, 35, 40 yards downfield, the most effortless catch. Just it was not difficult. It was not challenging. It just he caught the ball and made it look easy, and he does that a lot. Like he often makes the difficult look pretty natural, and for a rookie to do that in his first camp, I think is impressive. So I think the concern with Matthew Golden is not early in the season so much as it's can he maintain that throughout the course of the year. Yeah,
especially when teams start getting film on you. Yeah. Like the more the game plays, they're going to figure out. Because I remember even we talked about this, I think, on the drive to Indianapolis with some of these young guys that were so good, like the Edgerrin Coopers of the world that were really like impact players. Like this year, it could be different the way you said they're blocking him and defending him. So there's just so many guys like that it's going to be, you could say, it'll be fascinating to see what it's like and how teams will scout and game plan them. So
yeah, the thing with Golden is he's never played against a pro defense. He's played against a lot of vanilla coverages and things like that. So when things start moving, how quickly can he adapt to that? How quickly can he make his decisions? Does it slow his play down to have to read coverages and zones and all that kind of stuff? The one guy I will mention that we haven't mentioned is Savion Williams, who could be a factor because he doesn't have to be this intricate route runner. He needs to be a guy where they can get the ball in his hands in a short area and let him do something with it.
He's a big guy.
He's a big guy. He's fast. Yeah. Whether he can stay healthy, I don't know. But there's a lot of potential there just because it's easy to get the ball in his hands, much easier than it is to get it down the field to Matthew Golden.
Yeah, really the last point, and as far as I don't really have anything special teams, Mark McNamee made his kick, but the only thing that I've heard is that Brandon McManus isn't a very good ref or official.
Keyshawn Nixon sure doesn't think so.
That's all I heard.
Apparently, Keyshawn Nixon got in trouble with Brandon McManus, who was a side judge on, gosh, what day is it?
That was
Yesterday's
Tuesday.
practice. Yeah, Tuesday's practice.
Tuesdays.
It's a side judge. Keyshawn Nixon got in trouble for talking back to the official. And then Keyshawn Nixon responded by taking Brandon McManus' flag and throwing it right back at him. So yeah.
He said he had the Travis Kelce moment. So that is so true. So I guess maybe McManus should have been a ref today. Maybe the scuffles, maybe the fights wouldn't have broke out if maybe it was under McManus'
I'll tell you what, though. Brandon McManus did make a good call because he threw a defensive pass interference on Keyshawn Nixon against Romeo Doubs, and he was right. I had a good look at that. He was there early. He ran through the receiver, and so he did get that call right.
Yeah, that's it. So, guys, any final words or thoughts as we wrap up this show? Looking forward to preseason being over this weekend.
It's all about the 53 now. I mean,
It really is.
It's full throttle to trimming that initial roster.
Yeah, so what about Tuesday afternoon around 3 o'clock or so? We'll
Maybe a little
have
later.
Maybe a little later in the
Well,
day.
that's when it'll be announced, but hopefully we have most of them
Yeah.
in hand by then.
That's true. So hopefully they're just reading what you wrote. Read your article and say, okay, we got these 44 locks.
I'm sure
and
that's
we'll
what he
fill in
does.
the night. Yeah,
I'm sure that's how Brian Gutekunst knows about the roster.
That's how he operates. He just watch, especially because Evan Williams. I know he read your story, like who's going to be the next safety. So he got an interception today. So I'm surprised he didn't point at you, say that was for you, Spoon.
Yeah, right.
So he might have. We'll see. I'll go back and look at the tape. So thank you guys as always. We really do appreciate it, and we thank you all for checking out the Green 19 podcast. Again, the Packers wrap up preseason play this Saturday, taking on the Seahawks, and then after that, it's the 53-man roster. Then the regular season will be here. For Ryan Wood, Tom Silverstein, I'm Dominique Yates.